All right, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name is Curtis, and today I'm going to be talking about some underrated niche fragrance houses. Now, these houses have been very important for me in terms of my own fragrance journey, and I have talked about these fragrance houses on the channel before, but I feel like they deserve definitely more hype, so I wanted to talk about them again. So I'll be featuring 3 niche fragrance houses and 6 fragrances. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions on these houses and fragrances, then let's go. So first up, I have 2 fragrances from the house of Fusciuni. And Fusciuni is an Italian niche fragrance house, and they produce the most intriguing and unique fragrance compositions. So I've chosen 2 fragrances from that house. The first fragrance that we'll be talking about today is Little Song. So this fragrance is so dark, mysterious, sexy, and just extremely intriguing. I absolutely love this one. Now, I first smelled this at the Nose Shop in Tokyo, and I smelled it from the tester strip, and it was love at first sniff. But when you spray this one on skin, this one completely opens up. So I think the reason why I fell in love with this fragrance so much is it literally contains my favorite notes in fragrance. So you have rose, black coffee, vetiver, and tobacco. I mean, it's a combination from the gods. It literally is such an intoxicating fragrance, and it's just so unique. And the way that these notes have been constructed together just is something special, I'm telling you. And the sillage trail that this one leaves is absolutely gorgeous. Like, it just brings people in. There's something just kind of dark and mysterious about it, while at the same time being kind of a cozy scent. I mean, this is an evening wear fragrance. This is a fragrance that's perfect for like a date night situation. Or if you're, going for a night out on the town, maybe, if you're going to somewhere where you're a bit more dressed up, this is a very sophisticated fragrance, and it is definitely just, man, a stunner, I'm telling you. This is one of those fragrances that creates those magical moments, those transportive fragrances. This one takes me on a journey from beginning to end, and I think that's one reason why I really, really love this one. But yeah, it's a stunner. But this is unisex. This one's leaning right down the middle. It's not a beast mode fragrance or anything like that. You get moderate sillage, moderate projection, but the sillage that you do get with this one is just phenomenal. It's intoxicating, I'm telling you. This is definitely a great one, and one of my favorites, if not my favorite fragrance from the house. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Little Song by Fusciuni. All right, and the second fragrance we have from Fusciuni is Viole, Nere. Okay, so I probably butchered the heck out of that name, but this is such a stunning and unique take on a classic smelling fragrance, but with a modern twist. Basically, this is iris, violet, kind of a bit of earthiness, but an overall powdery bomb. And I'm not the biggest fan of powdery fragrances, but this one is so unique. It's a different kind of powderiness. Like I said, you definitely get that heavy blast of violet and iris, which is giving it that powdery effect. But you're also getting some oak moss in here, which is providing like an earthiness. And it's a green earthiness, but there's also a darkness to this, which also makes this fragrance quite mysterious. Now this one, I think, definitely, it's unisex, but it pushes a bit more to the feminine side. I think if this fragrance didn't have that kind of dark green earthiness to this, I probably wouldn't be so into this fragrance. But that mix of the powderiness and those earthy elements really kind of help to, I think, provide a lot of depth and character to this fragrance, and I think that's what makes this one so intriguing to me. And off my skin, this one pushes out heavy. So I usually just do about 2 to 3 sprays with this, and I'm good. I'm not trying to obviously I'm not trying to overwhelm myself or anyone else around me. So 2 or 3 sprays for me works a treat. There's no rules to this. Spray as much as you like. But powdery fragrances for me is kind of a genre that I've really had to become accustomed to. And at the beginning of my fragrance journey, I absolutely hated them. But over the course, and as my nose has kind of changed throughout the years, I've really started to kind of, become interested in them. And I would say out of all the fragrances in my collection, this is by far the most powdery. So if you're not a fan of powdery fragrances, then I would say you may not be interested in this one. This is not blind buy safe. Do not blind buy any of the fragrances on the list today. Sample. That's the only way that you're gonna build a true collection that you love. But man, this is a good one. I'm telling you, I really love it. And I don't have another fragrance that smells like this one in my collection. After this one starts to dry down too, I think kind of with that underlining dark earthiness that you get here, there's also just a very subtle hint of animalics. Now, I don't think there's any oud in here. I haven't really looked up the notes, but there is something that seems to come off as slightly animalic to me. Now, there may not be any animalics in here, but there's something that's kind of giving it that very subtle presence, which isn't off-putting by any means, don't get me wrong. It actually is very pleasant, and it just adds to the character of this fragrance. But man, this is a good one. But like I said, it is quite powdery. So, if you're not a fan of powdery fragrances, then this may not be your cup of tea. But I really like this one. And you don't hear anybody else really talking about this fragrance. So it's definitely one to sample if you're interested. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Viole Nere by Fusciuni. All right, so the next underrated niche fragrance house that we'll be talking about today is Perris Monte Carlo. Man, I have a few fragrances from this house and they are all just stunning. So the first fragrance I'll be talking about today is Oud Imperial. Man, so this is just oud with character, a lot of character. It's dark, woody, smoky, earthy, and slightly medicinal, but just overall has a sexiness and a sex appeal to it that I just really find intriguing. This one does become quite smoky, a bit earthy, woody, and leathery in the dry down. That leather and smoke really start to push forward here. And I would say in that dry down, even more so than the oud, this fragrance is just a very smoky, woody, and slightly leathery smelling fragrance. Upon initial spray though, you do kind of get that oud pushing forward, but as you start to dry down, that oud kind of falls into the background and you're mainly getting those smoky, woody, slightly earthy notes that are pushing forward. But man, this one is such a stunner. And this one was perfumed by one of my favorite perfumers, Luca Maffei, and he has perfumed a few fragrances from the house of Perris Monte Carlo. One other fragrance that I won't be showing today, but I do talk about a lot on the channel, is Rose de Taif Extrait, my favorite rose fragrance thus far in my journey. Stunner. But he's also perfumed Oud Imperial, and yeah, he just does amazing work. Man, and this one is such a stunner on cold evening nights. When you want to give off that kind of dominant presence and kind of let people know that, hey, I'm not playing around, this is the type of fragrance that you reach for. Now this one is unisex fragrance, of course, like all fragrances are unisex, but this one pushes heavily into that masculine side. But of course, women can definitely wear this. And again, please take all of this with a grain of salt. These are just my opinions about these fragrances. You might spray this and you might interpret it in a completely different way, but these are just all my opinions. But this is a gorgeous one and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Oud Imperial by Perris Monte Carlo. All right, next up, we have Cedro di Diamante. Man, so this is a fragrance that I reach for in the summertime because Perris Monte Carlo does citruses so well. They may even be the top in terms of the way that they construct their citrus-based fragrances. These are done so well. Incredible. And the line of their summer fragrance line that they have are all just bangers. This is the only one I have from their summer fragrance line, but this one is so good. This one just smells like an icy cold lemon sorbet, basically. And it is so refreshing in the summertime. It almost like has a cooling effect to it. You spray this on and you just automatically feel cooler. That's how refreshing this one is. And it's because the citruses are done amazingly well. So you get, like I said, you get that kind of icy lemon sorbet vibe. So heavy citruses, and then you get a bit of like creaminess and a subtle sweetness when you move into the dry down. But what a gorgeous wearing experience this one is. But you know, you also got to keep in mind too, this definitely is not a beast mode fragrance, and longevity is just, it doesn't have a very long longevity. I mean, you got to think too, I mean, it's a citrus-based fragrance. It's not gonna last all day long. I mean, I get about 4 hours or so with this fragrance, but you know, I just respray if I need to. But man, such a good one. You get like moderate sillage and moderate projection with this, but man, for the time that this fragrance is on the skin and lasting, man, it's such a gorgeous wearing experience. And one other thing that I like doing with Perris Monte Carlo and a lot of their fragrances, and if you go to their website, they'll give you a bunch of layering combinations that you can do. So I do like to layer this fragrance up with Rose de Taif Extrait. Those two layer incredibly well. Also, with Oud Imperial, if you want to layer a bit of citruses into this fragrance, it works really well also. But yeah, this is just, oh man, so good. And I can imagine too, like sometimes like in the winter time and the fall, you just want to smell a bit kind of refreshed. So kind of, you know, layering in a fragrance like this, or even just kind of wearing this one on its own, just smells so good in that cold, crisp air. Yeah, I absolutely love it. But I mainly reach for this one in that summertime, that high kind of heat humidity. It just helps to cool me off, and I love the scent. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Cedro di Diamante by Perris Monte Carlo. And the final fragrance house we'll be talking about today is Laboratorio Olfattivo. Man, they have some absolute bombs in their collection. So I'll be talking about 2 fragrances from that house today. So the first fragrance we'll be talking about is Neurotic. So this one is just a smoky, ambery leather fragrance. It's very dark and mysterious, but overall sexy. This is a sexy evening wear fragrance in my opinion. I only reach for this one in the evenings when I'm going out, and in that fall and winter temperatures, this one is so good. You get some kind of red fruits and some grapefruit in the opening of this one, which provides kind of a subtle kind of fruity sweetness to this. But then when you move into the dry down, that's when you're getting those heavier notes, those ambery, leathery, smoky notes that are really starting to push forward. But man, this one is such an intoxicating wear, and I get 10+ hours on my skin with this one. Performance is so good. This is a heavy hitter. It pushes out extremely heavily off my skin. And this one was actually perfumed by one of my favorite perfumers, Cécile Zarokian. She's done a phenomenal job. Many of you may know her from her other work, like with Nichane or Amouage. Yeah, she's definitely a hot perfumer at the moment. A lot of niche fragrance houses are turning to her for some unique and intriguing creations, because that's exactly what she does. She creates some stunners, and this is one of them. And you don't hear a whole lot of people talking about Neurotic or Laboratorio Olfattivo for that matter. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Neurotic by Laboratorio Olfattivo. All right, and finally from the house of Laboratorio Olfattivo, we have Vanagloria. So this one is a very, very heavy blast of saffron and incense, and it kind of dries down to like an incensey vanillic fragrance, but it is so sexy. And I think this one kind of resembles Baby Cat a little bit. However, Vanagloria was created first and then Baby Cat was created. But I've never smelled Baby Cat, so I can't really compare the two. But I have heard others talk about the comparison between Vanagloria and Baby Cat. So I think they definitely resemble each other. I don't think they're definitely not the same fragrance, but they kind of share a similar DNA from what I've heard. And they were actually perfumed by the same perfumer. So both of those fragrances were perfumed by Dominique Ropion. And yeah, he's done a stunning job here. Now, the only thing I'll say about this fragrance, one thing that I'll say about this fragrance, when I sprayed this one on my skin, the initial blast, I'm getting like a slightly unpleasant saffron, very heavy saffron note, and it's a bit off-putting to me, but after about 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, that subsides, and then that's when the magic happens and the beauty of this fragrance really starts to shine. And if you're someone who thinks like churchy, incensey type of vanillic fragrances can't be sexy, I'm telling you they can, and this is the prime example of it. Such a gorgeous wear. Yeah. And this one, for me, when I wear this one, compliment getter. People tend to really love this one. It leaves an absolutely beautiful and gorgeous sillage. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yes, you get that heavy incense, you get those sweeter kind of vanillic tones, but that saffron's kicking off so hard. Man, but like I said before, let this one, at least on my skin, and again, please take my thoughts on these fragrances with a grain of salt. Everybody's experience are different. So I'm just telling you guys about my own personal experience, which may be different from yours. But for me and off my skin, that saffron pushes, but after 5 or 10 minutes, magic. I'm telling you, I absolutely love this fragrance. After that first 5 or 10 minutes. It's a gorgeous one. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Vanagloria by Laboratorio Olfattivo. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And let me know down in the comments section, what are some underrated niche fragrance houses that you know about? I'd love to hear about them. All right, well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.